young Earth versus old Earth, I think, is or naturally created Earth. Um, I think my PhD time actually turned me into more of a young Earth kind of guy.
What are they? Can you just
Yeah,
dump
so
out the
young Earth
basic? Like,
is
what is this even
yeah,
talking
young
about?
Earth is the idea that uh, the Earth was created supernaturally. It's only I think if you do the math in terms of the existence of the generations, humans only arose. Adam and Eve were created uh, little less than 7,000 years ago, or something like that.
Okay.
I think if you actually do the math, calculating how long each person lived, and when they had kids and stuff like that.
Okay.
Assuming that no one is there aren't any generations or individuals that are left out in the progression, that humans arose only about 7,000 years ago. It doesn't really necessarily speak to how long before that the Earth was created. Like the Earth could have been created, a billion years before God actually started working on these days of creation. But the idea that young Earth is the idea that the Earth was created supernaturally,
Okay.
and that humans only that the sixth day of creation was only about 6,000 and something 7,000 years ago.
Okay.
Old Earth is the idea that the Earth was created 4 billion years ago in a large solar system creating event.
Like the Big Bang?
Yeah. Well, no, this
Or-
would have been long after the Big Bang. The Big Bang would have been like 14 billion years ago.
Oh god.
And
Okay.
the Earth would have been created like 4 billion years ago.
Okay.
And for the first 3 billion years of its existence, it was just molten rock, molten lava. And then eventually the outer crust cooled to the point where water could condense and life could eventually somehow emerge through processes that we don't understand and haven't fully and then, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the old Earth. The old Earth idea is the Earth was created entirely through natural means at the same time that the rest of the solar system was created. And young Earth is that Adam and Eve were created on the sixth day of creation, about 7,000 years ago. What's interesting is when you're thinking about the young Earth idea, you have to also address the idea of what are these days of creation, because 3 of these days of creation happen before there's even a sun, moon, and stars.
Okay,
right?
can you explain for any people not familiar with the Bible what these days of creation? I mean,
Yeah, so
in a nutshell, Genesis 1.
Yeah, so Genesis 1, there's 6 days of creation, and they're presented as 2 sets of 3.
That's the first book of the Bible.
Yeah, the first book of the Bible. And what's interesting is these sets of 3 each address a different aspect of the unformed Earth. In the beginning, there was darkness.
Okay.
The Earth was unformed and it was empty. Right?
Okay.
These are 3 attributes that are given to us
Right.
about the Earth.
Okay.
Days 1 and 4 have to do with the darkness. Because on day 1, God created light and separated it from the darkness. And on day 4, God created the sources of light, the sun, moon, and stars. It is very interesting.
Yeah,
on day 2, God addresses the form. So on day 2, God separates the sky and the sea.
Okay.
And then on day 5, he creates fish and birds.
Okay.
Then on day 3, God creates land and plants. On day 6, God creates the animals that dwell on the land.
Okay.
And that addresses the Earth as empty.
Interesting.
Day 1 and day 4 addresses the Earth is dark.
Right.
Days 2 and 5 address the Earth as formless. And day 3 and 6, God addresses the Earth as empty.
Okay.
And so there's this very poetic imagery that goes into this. And so it's a question of, well, what does a day mean to God, particularly when 3 of those days happen when there's no sun, moon, and stars.
Okay.
Right. So that's the young Earth view. I think a young Earth person can still say that Adam and Eve were created 7,000 years ago, but the Earth could have been created billions of years before that. Like there's no point of reference between when God created the heavens and the earth and when these days of creation started. We're not given any reference point between those two in the verses in Genesis, at least.
So where do most Christians lie on this?
Oh, they're all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Do you think
in my early days of Christianity, I was fine with just saying, oh, the Genesis account is probably just a metaphor, and we don't necessarily have to take it literally. It wasn't until grad school where I saw just how flawed a lot of the science that goes behind the creation of the Earth is and the origin of life is, that I'm like, these ideas just have so little basis and good evidence that I think I'd rather just go with the Bible in terms of the creation of humankind.
This is important. So can you explain why you moved to the young Earth side? In other words, like, what are those assumptions behind the scientific models that made you say,
It's problems like,
was
in
it
order
carbon
to,
dating, or what
well,
was?
I mean, yeah, there's problems in the assumptions that go behind how you date how old things are, certainly. I don't think we really have time to go into the math
Yeah.
of how that all works. But I think fundamentally it's the issues that I brought up. Like, it's not easy to create new proteins out of nothing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not easy to create DNA out of nothing. And we don't have any good models for how that happened. Um, and I think fundamentally, the question you have to ask is, how do you determine the difference between what a universe would look like that was supernaturally created versus a universe that arose through natural means? Or to put it more precisely, what does an Earth look like that was created supernaturally, and how is that different than an Earth that was created through natural means? And if you can't really answer that question, you can't really determine how the you know whether or not the universe. It's not a scientific question. If you can't say this is the difference between what those two worlds would look like, then you can't really address the science of this is why we know the universe is 14 billion years old versus a billion years old versus whatever.
Hmm.
You can't say why the god couldn't have created a universe that just looks like it was 14 billion years ago, but really it was only created a billion years ago, or it was only created 10,000 years ago. Like, how would you tell the difference?
Yeah, I mean, I have, yeah. Okay, interesting.